Have you ever woken up on what seemed like a normal day, but inside it felt like the world was falling apart? There wasn't any real reason, nothing terrible had happened, but your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and your thoughts start racing like something awful is just around the corner. Yeah, that has a name, and you probably know it: anxiety. But what you might not know is this: when you understand one very specific thing, something almost no one talks about, anxiety starts to lose its grip on you. Actually, before I tell you what that is, take a deep breath and hit that subscribe button, because if this video helps you even a little, and I believe it will, you'll want to keep walking this path with us. All right, back to it. Most people think anxiety is just a chemical problem, like something you either have or don't. Have, like the flu. But what if I told you that anxiety more often than not isn't the cause? It's the effect? Sounds backwards, right? But stay with me. Imagine you're in a dark room and suddenly you hear a strange noise. You start sweating, your heart races, you freeze. That's anxiety. But the noise didn't cause it. It was what? You imagine that noise could be anxiety lives off this, off of imagined possibilities that haven't even happened yet. And that brings us to the first idea that changes everything. Anxiety isn't about what's happening. It's about what might happen. It pulls you out of the present moment and throws you into a made-up future, usually one that feels terrifying. Carl Jung once said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." In other words, it's the fear of what could happen once you realize that you're actually in control of your life and just as exposed to its consequences. It's a paradox. You want control, but you're afraid of what you might do with it. And that's where the mental chaos begins. You want to make perfect choices. You don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to fail. But at the same time, you want freedom. You want to live. You want to be yourself. Trying to carry all of that creates a mental overload, and anxiety thrives in that overload. Now let me tell you something you might have never heard before. Anxiety doesn't just show up out of nowhere. It shows up when you've been silencing your intuition for too long. Remember that weird feeling during that conversation? That little voice saying, "This isn't the right path"? That moment you wanted to say no, but said yes instead. All those tiny betrayals of yourself pile up, like emotional trash shoved into a corner, and eventually the mind starts screaming, because the soul whispered, and you didn't listen. That's my take, by the way, based on everything I've read, studied, and personally experienced. Then the body starts speaking. Tight chest, shallow breathing, insomnia, random worries that seem way too intense. All of that is your unconscious waving red flags, which brings me to the second idea that nobody talks about enough. Anxiety isn't your enemy. It's a messenger. Here's the funny part. Almost everyone treats anxiety like a threat to be eliminated. But what if it's not attacking you? What if it's trying to warn you? Jung talked a lot about the self and the deepest part of who we are, and he believed that when we drift too far from that center, the soul suffers, the soul gets sick. Anxiety then is like an alarm, a wake-up call, a signal. You've lost touch with who you really are. You're living on autopilot. You're squeezing yourself into a role that doesn't fit. And that hurts, because it takes guts to look inward and admit, maybe I'm not living my life. Maybe I'm living someone else's idea of it. Hard truth, I know, but this is where everything starts to shift, because once you realize that anxiety might be trying to help you, not destroy you, your entire relationship with it changes. You stop fighting, and you start listening. Let me ask you something simple. Have you ever sat in complete silence for 10 minutes? No phone, no music, nothing. You know what happens for most people? The mind goes wild. Random thoughts, old fears, uncomfortable memories. All of it comes rushing in, and then it hits you. Anxiety lives in silence because that's where truth shows up. And truth, my friend, can be terrifying, because it tears down the masks. Now let me give you the third idea. And trust me, this one's a game changer. Anxiety feeds off your need to control the uncontrollable. Jung said, "What you resist persists." And most people, they resist anxiety. They try to suppress it, avoid it, reason it away. But the secret isn't in fighting it. It's in walking through it, letting it come, feeling it, watching it, breathing through it. Sounds like some kind of Buddhist advice? Maybe. But neuroscience backs it up too. Studies show that when you let yourself feel an emotion without judgment, it moves through you much faster. It's like the anxiety says, "Okay, you saw me, now I can go." But if you push it down, it doesn't disappear. It just gets louder because it wants to be acknowledged. And why is this so hard for most of us? Because we were trained to run from emotions. From the time we were kids, we were told, crying is weak, anger is bad, fear means you're broken. But Jung warned us, what you don't face within yourself ends up controlling you. That's what he called the shadow. The shadow is all the stuff you hide because you think it makes you unlovable, and guess what? It comes out anyway, just in the messiest ways possible. Anxiety, panic attacks, self-sabotage. That's why healing doesn't mean pretending everything's fine or forcing yourself to be constantly positive. Healing starts when you can say, I'm scared, I feel insecure, but I'm still here. That is real strength, that's presence. That's where freedom begins. And now, just to lighten the mood fast, but I mean this, anxiety is kind of like that awkward uncle at family dinners. Loud, disruptive, makes everyone uncomfortable, but really, he just wants some attention. And once you give it to him, he chills out. So the real question isn't how do I get rid of anxiety, it's how do I relate to it? Because it's probably not going away forever. But it doesn't have to run your life either. You don't need to be a prisoner of your thoughts, you just need to become a friend to your soul. Of course, that takes practice. It's not automatic, it's not magic, but it's real. And it starts with one question. What exactly am I trying so hard to control right now? Because every wave of anxiety is covering up some desperate attempt to predict what hasn't happened yet. But here's the catch. The future never shows up. It only lives in your mind. The only thing that's truly real is this moment right now, this second, this breath. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. So if you're still here with me, take a breath. Really. Inhale, exhale, and ask yourself, could it be that what you're calling anxiety is just a part of you that's tired of pretending, a part that's begging to be seen, gently, honestly, without judgment? Jung said, those who look outside dream, those who look inside awaken. And maybe, just maybe, your awakening starts right now. Comment down below. What is my anxiety trying to tell me? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and you might be surprised how much someone else needs to read what you have to say. If this video resonated with you, send it to someone who might need to hear this too, because sometimes what we all need most is someone to say, it's okay. You're not alone. What you're feeling has a name and there is a way through, and maybe that path starts here.